How's it going? Name's Greg. I'm a photographer and filmmaker. I do creative shit too, but my main focus are like working on camera, editing, shooting, that type of vibe. Yeah, I recently did like a little experiment. I thought it was kind of cool. It's a horse that's been beat to death, but I kind of wanted to put my own little twist to it. I compared two cameras that were at about a $200 price range, and it's two similar but different cameras. I picked a T5i, and then I also picked a 6D Classic, not the Mark II. Two cameras within a similar price range that fit two different or similar people. They're a little bit older, but for someone that's on a budget, you could use that and eventually get better lenses, better equipment, and the lenses that used on that you could eventually bring with you into newer cameras. For example, I'm actually shooting on the 6D right now. How's the video looking? How's it coming along? I think it's fine. Video is not a strong suit in this camera at all. I'm actually using a monitor to kind of assist me with focus peaking and checking audio levels. So, it's kind of you need to put some work in to get this to be good for video, and even then its codec is not that good. But realistically, we are comparing two pretty similar cameras. One's APS-C, one's full frame. They came out around a similar time, 2012, 2013, not too much of a difference within Canon's color science. So I set the cameras up to be as close as possible to each other. I used mostly the same lenses except for the T5i that has an 18-35. I use that one sparingly. I mostly use the Canon EF like 85mm 1.8 and then the 75 to 300 4.5 to 5.6 or 3.5 to 5.6, something around that line. And I might have used the 50 1.8. It's just lenses that I have that I've compiled over time. For right now, I'm actually on a Super Takumar 20mm f 4.5. Cool little lens. I love vintage lenses for those of you that know me or have seen my stuff before. But also, they have their pros and cons. Same with these cameras. The 6D kind of doesn't have a flip out screen. It doesn't have a built-in flash. For beginners, that might be a little bit of a hindrance, which might be a reason to go with the T5. I don't want to talk negatively. So with the 60, you do get better low light, you get better, you get a shorter depth of field, all the typical full frame, positives with it, right? Cool thing about it, both of them, you get Canon's color science and you get kind of like the DSLR feel. In my opinion, there are pros and cons to DSLR and mirrorless cameras. The cool thing about DSLRs is that you get to see through the lens in a sense versus with a mirrorless, with the electronic viewfinder. You kind of get to see what your picture is going to look like after. You get to see it like on a screen. You can still kind of do that on a DSLR, even though most of them don't have great screens, but you can still do the whole live viewfinder or live view on the screen. Like I said, pros and cons. The electronic viewfinder I think is super cool, super dope. You get to see focus, you get to see the way your color is looking. You get like gamma assist if you're shooting in log, cool stuff. But again, we're not talking about those cameras. We're talking about these older models, which I think are still pretty valuable or pretty useful, especially for someone who's coming in as a beginner, trying to come in and get started. Because at the end of the day, if you're like me, when you're starting off, you only had like a couple $100 to get started. The reason why I also like this price range is because my first camera when I got it was a T3i, and I got it for about $250, like what I could afford at the time. I came with an 18-35 and I think a 55 to 200. And it was, I did a lot of work with that. I could probably put some stuff here that I did that I'm relatively happy with. Like to this day, there's some stuff in there that I'm like, I could have done better, but like as a beginner, dude, like that's, it was way better than phones were at the time, I started photo and video probably around like 2017, 2018. Before that, I was doing audio. I was kind of a sound guy. I was boom mopping, sound for like events, concerts, audio engineering type vibes, studio engineering, tracking, a little bit of mixing. I did a lot of surround mixing in my free time, but all that's kind of like a little bit like more down the way. But yeah, I did a big comparison with these two. I'll show you both cameras right now. I can split them up in two. I kind of wanted to do like a blind test. Let me know what you think. This is camera A. It kind of, has its own look, its own vibe, its own aesthetic. And camera B, same thing. Pretty similar color science and everything. But, there's some difference. I did a blind test on Instagram and it was kind of like overwhelmingly, to the full frame camera, which is the 60. There was a few people that still said they liked the T5 a little better, but the vast majority were like, yeah, this is better. This one's probably full frame. And I was like, yeah, it is. And I tried to do some of the images close as possible as I could to each other. I even cropped in a little just to give it like an unfair advantage here and there. But for the most part, you know, try to keep the cropping minimal. You know, I did one or two just for funsies. Let me know what you think. Let me know which ones you think are better. If you have a preference, if you could tell which camera is which, put a reveal right here. I'll set camera A to be the crop sensor, the T5, and I'll set camera B to be the full frame, which is the 60. One thing I would always say, like, instead of like buying a camera right away, if you have the ability or the option to borrow one, you know, try it out, you know, talk to people, whatnot. Because it's always good to learn, good to try out new things, you know. I get self-conscious. This is fucking weird. I'm not used to this. I'm used to being behind the camera, not in front of it. Let me know what you think. Feel like, you know, and if you like it, you like it. If you hate it, you hate it. If you tell me I suck, tell me why. Tell me why I'm terrible. You know, like, what am I going to say? Am I going to argue with you? Maybe. Might be fun to argue in the comments. We'll see. All right, well, bye.